As helping professionals, sometimes we can get sucked into a point where we kind of lose track of ourselves. How do you help someone without hurting yourself? I've brought in an expert to help out with that today. One of the biggest challenges about being in a helping profession is keeping yourself out of that mode where you get sucked in or you start losing track of your own health, your own boundaries, your own mental health as you try to assist someone else. Blue, you know a lot about this because you've worked with addictions for your entire career.
My entire career.
And you've seen that there are some ways people get sucked in sometimes. You and I did a podcast recently about this very topic.
It was a good one.
And I thought, who better to come to Live on Purpose TV today to help us with this issue? What have you noticed about this?
You know, Dr. Paul, when we get involved in other people's lives, our primary goal and desire is to truly help. And sometimes we cross those lines and those boundaries that we've set because that person that we love, we care about, or who's come to us is hurting so bad. But if we take on all of their emotional baggage, if we get ourselves too involved, if we become so hyper-focused on their problem, we start losing control of our own. And what happens is we start doing that with multiple people. So pretty soon you're carrying this backpack full of problems that are weighing us down. And then when your own come up, you sink. And so being able to draw and establish like emotional boundaries are crucial with this kind of stuff. I love something that you said years ago that stuck with me for years. And that's, your urgency is not my urgency. That doesn't mean you don't care. That means, you know, that you know what, there's a crisis right now, but I'm not going to bring it on board. We're going to fix it together at an appropriate time. We talked about core communication in a previous video. And I think that that's a big part of this, is that our goal isn't to solve the problem. It's to help navigate them to solve their own with a little bit of co-piloting.
Can I comment about that?
Please.
As a psychologist, I had to learn that early on. It's not my role to steal their problem from them. And I use those words because I want you to consider this for a minute. What if you were to steal something valuable from that person that you're trying to help?
Absolutely.
Well, that wouldn't be a good thing.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Their problem is there for a reason. I don't think you can solve it, first of all, because the things that contribute to that problem being there in the first place, let's say it's an addiction or it's someone who's really struggling with certain lifestyle issues. Can you solve that? I don't think you can.
No, it's not possible.
So as you back off and you become a supportive resource to them, that's very different from taking it on and assuming the emotional and sometimes the financial or physical responsibility for their problem.
Absolutely.
We need to let them keep it because it's going to teach them something really valuable and important.
Absolutely. Because what happens if you don't is that you learn and grow immensely, but the person that you are trying to attempt to help, they gain nothing. In fact, they can become weaker. It's like when I'm coaching my athletes in Addict to Athlete. And being a coach is a very different thing than being an athlete and a player. I have to stand on the sidelines knowing that the things that we've taught and the training that we've done are going to get them across the line. If I decided to jump in and push them away and then run and finish their race, what value would that be of theirs? So yeah, stealing their problems or trying to overpower them with what has worked for you in the past isn't going to give them that experience that they can grow from. It's okay to struggle. Let them struggle.
That's a hard thing to do.
It is.
When you love or care about someone to the point where you want to help them with their life, it's hard to see them suffer or struggle. As you were talking earlier about they don't gain anything if you steal their problem. Part of what they're learning is probably something you don't want them to learn. And that's dependency.
Absolutely.
Or this pattern of deferring their problem to someone else instead of taking it on and finding the personal resources to get through that problem.
Absolutely. And you can have that with a sense of empathy, and you can have that with a sense of direction. But again, if we take away the struggle and we make that even to the point where it's so light that they're kind of floating through it without learning the reasons why they need to be stronger or step up or ask for more help, we take away the advantage that they're going to gain to help someone else in that same situation. And so we got to be cautious on what our motivation is. Why do we feel so impressed or driven to take it away? And sometimes it feels good to help people. That can itself can turn into a somewhat of an addiction. Well, so we got to put ours in check too. What it's doing for us.
I wonder if this is where we mentioned that issue of codependency.
Ooh, the scary word.
Oh,
yeah.
That comes up in the addiction industry all the time, doesn't it?
It most certainly does.
What does that mean? Can you help us understand what codependency is?
Yeah. See, codependency kind of occurs when our desire to help kind of overpowers the actual help, meaning we start finding purpose and value in our helping to the degree that that's all we focus on. And again, it suffocates and takes away from the experience that our loved one or our friend might have. And so when we become so enmeshed with our gain to feel good and to help them feel good, we start depending on those kind of things and start trying to solve problems that aren't even problems.
It's like we need someone to need us.
Exactly.
And it's the opposite side of an addiction. And it's called codependency because there are two people who are engaged in a dynamic, both of which are dependent on the other.
Absolutely.
So this person with an addiction, for example, is dependent on this person to take care of them.
Absolutely.
And then this person becomes dependent on having someone over here to take care of, and it's just a nasty cycle.
It is, and it boils down to that concept of the airplane. Put your oxygen mask on before you help someone else put theirs on, because if you don't have oxygen, you're going to be no help to the rest of the passengers. So take care of yourself first and foremost in order to be able to be available emotionally, mentally, and even physically for others.
Can we talk for just a minute about something you mentioned earlier, that it's okay to set appropriate boundaries?
Absolutely.
When you're trying to assist someone who's very needy.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we do that? What's some practical
I like that because there's this old philosophy of tough love, and to kick the person out or to, really set that hardcore boundary. I don't know if that works as well as we thought it did years ago. And what it means is by establishing those boundaries is this stuff that has to happen now. If you try to establish a boundary once the war has kind of overtaken your walls, so to speak, setting a boundary is going to be very difficult. But being able to do that now with how much energy you're going to be able to bring to the table and to have those expectations and those values very clear are so primally important because it's going to keep you safe. And sometimes you'll ebb and sometimes you'll flow, but more often than not, if you can set those healthy boundaries for yourself, knowing that there are lines you won't cross, and that if you do, you'll bring in maybe an alternate substitution for someone that can help, therapist, friend, counselor, clergy. That is so crucial and important because you don't have to be that person that always throws out the rescue ring.
Can I put a practical application on this for a minute?
Absolutely.
Sometimes when you're trying to help someone who is so needy and so dependent, they may want to call you or text you at any hour around the clock.
That's happened to both of us.
Yes, and it's okay for you. My message when I was operating a full clinical practice, my voice message was, you may leave me a message.
Yeah.
If this is an emergency.
If it's an emergency.
Call 911.
Yeah.
I was deferring to emergency services, to 911.
Yeah.
Which was a way of my setting a limit. I'm not going to get out of bed in the middle of the night to respond to your crisis. Your crisis is not my emergency.
Yes.
It is your emergency. And if this is an emergency, please call 911. And that was very clear on my voice message.
And that small little snap back into reality is they're listening to that voicemail and they're saying emergency. They get to question, is this really an emergency?
Right.
Am I going a little bit too far? Or maybe I can take a deep breath and come back at a decent time.
And you know what? If it is an emergency, you've just given them a resource.
Absolutely.
If it's not, they're going to rethink it and they're going to say, well, I'll just call them in the morning.
Exactly.
Which I'm okay with.
Those are those kind of boundaries that are so crucial to set.
Right. You can have some office hours,
yeah,
so to speak. No, you may not be a helping professional, but if you're trying to assist someone who's got these issues that are chronic and recurring and very needy, it's okay for you to set those limits and those boundaries. In fact, it's crucial to your own health, and it puts you in a better position to help them because you're not going to burn out as quickly.
Nope, you can be available for the next one.
Big thank you to Blue Robinson for helping out with this video today. If you want to connect with Blue, go to addicttoathlete.com, or you can connect with him at liveonpurpose.coach.
I saw standing in the street.